CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid joins us from Washington now. Paula, Jeff Sessions has been in situations like this before, both doing the questioning and being questioned. So he is seasoned. What are you watching for?
We're looking to see how he handles some really tough questions from this bench. Now, Jeff, remember, this is the first time he's been back on the Hill since his confirmation hearing, where he failed to mention 2 meetings that he had had with the Russian ambassador. Those were subsequently reported by the Washington Post, and he, of course, had to recuse himself from the most prominent investigation formerly under the Justice Department. Jeff, he's also going to get some tough questions about why he was involved in the firing of the former FBI director, and he's also going to be asked about some things that the former FBI director testified about, including some meetings with the president that he thought were inappropriate.
Paula, so just to go back for a second, Paula, on this third, whatever happened with Kislyak, there's a lot of haze about what may not have happened. And we're expecting Jeff Sessions to possibly say that it was a gathering with a whole number of folks, and yes, they may have been in the same area at some point, but this wasn't a private meeting.
Exactly. This was an event during the campaign at the Mayflower Hotel here in Washington. There were many, many prominent people there. Attorney General Sessions was present, as was the Russian ambassador. The president, now president, then campaigner, spoke at the event. And the argument is that they may have, from the Department of Justice, is that they may have brushed shoulders, they may have passed one another, but there was no pull aside. There was no substantive sit-down meeting. But there have been different reports mostly from intercepts and communications that they've intercepted between Russia and the United States that suggest perhaps it was more than that.
Legally speaking, Paula, I mean, what are you looking for in terms of the language that the Attorney General uses or might use?
One of the big questions he's going to get is what exactly is the scope of your recusal here? I mean, the former FBI director says that he wasn't clear. He never received any guidance on the extent to which Sessions is recused. But Sessions will present a memo that he sent to the former FBI director and other top national security folks, which specifically says he recuses himself from any future investigations of matters in any way related to the campaigns for president of the United States. But, Jeff, that's not exactly clear. Well, does that extend to Jared Kushner's business dealings? Does that deal with lies that Michael Flynn told to the vice president? Should or did that extend to FBI Director Comey's firing? I think they're really going to try to pin him down on the parameters of his recusal from Russia as this investigation continues to get broader and broader.
Right, because the trick for Sessions here is that they first cited DOJ protocol and that James Comey was not following it as the reason for his firing, and then the president himself later said on camera, no, it was because of the Russia investigation.
Exactly. I think they're going to try to really press him on whose decision, who was the first mover when it came to firing the former FBI director. We have this memo from your Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, laying out this framework, but it doesn't appear that this was his idea. It appears this came from the president. You endorsed it. You also issued a memo. I think they're really going to try to pin him down on the timeline. But, Jeff, it's also likely he could try to say, look, I'm not going to discuss any conversations that I had with the president, because that's exactly what happened last week when they had 4 top intelligence officials testifying on the Hill. Nobody wanted to discuss what they had discussed with President Trump.
We are, Paula, very likely going to hear Jeff Sessions talk quite a bit about Loretta Lynch.
Yes.
And what James Comey said last week, and that is Lynch asking him to refer to the email inquiry as a matter, not an investigation.
Yes, I think he's really going to try to divert the attention from himself, from his own controversies and issues to hers, because that really works, particularly with a lot of Republicans who don't fully trust how the former Attorney General handled the investigation into former Secretary Clinton's use of a private server. In fact, just this morning, the president was tweeting about this. He was suggesting that the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, sort of cut Hillary Clinton some slack, saying that she made law enforcement decisions for a political purpose. Now, it's important to caveat that tweet with the fact that after the former Attorney General had her infamous meeting with former President Clinton on the tarmac, she stepped aside and she left the final decision to former FBI Director Comey, who found there was not sufficient evidence to bring charges. But anytime you call into question how the former Attorney General handled the Clinton investigation, that's really going to play well with the base. And I anticipate many Republican senators will probably be asking Attorney General to expand a little bit more on that. What else do you know about that, as opposed to getting too caught up in the Russia investigation?
Right. And as they expand on that, they're also going to be expanding on the notion that Mueller's team is compromised or somehow politicized by the fact that members of his team, lawyers he's hiring now, were Democratic donors.
Exactly. I think there seems to be this campaign underway to undermine this special counsel, although it was just 3 weeks ago that this Justice Department specifically selected him to lead this very important investigation. And most people in town, almost anyone you talk to, will say, you know, Robert Mueller is the epitome of bipartisan, of being just an upstanding person who can handle any sort of investigation, no matter how politically complex, in an objective way, which is why everyone thought he was just central casting. But now it appears there is this sort of campaign underway to undermine him. And the White House hasn't come out and said, no, we're in no way considering firing him at this point. They're sort of letting this hearsay, letting a lot of these rumors just continue to percolate.
Paula, just out of curiosity, we asked Ron Hosko about this and the sort of urgency or the timetable. Have you got any reporting on what? And I know Bob Mueller has not said anything publicly, and by all accounts is still in the initial stages of the investigation, despite all this talk. But do we have any idea right now about how long that investigation might take?
I've been told by former national security officials that an investigation like this, Jeff, that it can take years. I know that there is certainly a sense of urgency, particularly from the White House. They like to wrap this up, but something like this takes a long time, and you never know. The former FBI director, he used the metaphor of turning over rocks. You never know what you might find, but that is true. Many investigations open as being about one thing, and then they become something different, right? The investigation into General Petraeus, that was a cyber stalking investigation, and you uncover information about mishandling classified information. So once you start an investigation of this scope with these kinds of resources, you don't know what you're going to uncover, and therefore it's impossible to lay out a timeline. The best one that I have is I've been told it could take years.
But the scope of those investigations has changed since the Ken Starr days.
Do you mean the scope of the power of the special counsel?
Correct.
Yes. After the Ken Starr era, Congress decided not to renew that particular type of the special prosecutor. Instead, they wanted to go back to the special counsel. That's someone who's appointed by the Justice Department and still technically retains the oversight. He answers to Rod Rosenstein. He would have answered to the Attorney General had he not had to recuse. But yeah, it's slightly different than what we had in the Clinton years. The last time they had a special counsel, it was Attorney General Janet Reno appointed a U.S. Attorney, Patrick Fitzgerald, to look into how the Justice Department handled the Waco incident. So it's not something that's commonly used. There aren't a lot of precedents for it. But the best information I have from people involved in this investigation is that something like this could take years.
And also interesting to note President Clinton's frustrations with his Attorney General as well, Janet Reno at the time. Paula Reid, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon.